Welcome to the product demonstration for the clearMDM Master Data Management Solution for Salesforce. Demonstration will follow a structure based around the three distinct but very typical user roles found in an MDM implementation context. So starting here with the business user. Key points of interest for a business user will really start with the single customer view, and a product such as clearMDM is really tasked with an efficient delivery of a clean, deduplicated set of master records as the basis for operational process. So, at the point of service, sale, relationship management, marketing communication, perhaps, it's important that the single customer exists as a single record, and operationally we don't need to kind of manage the duplicate instances. Really, data management must be an administrative task and not a business concern. Building upon the single customer view, business users will really gain value from the 360-degree insight brought through consolidating all of the operational insight, all of the intelligence that exists within the business, bringing that information together and populating the master record with as much information and intelligence as possible. And part of that picture will be a consolidation of the interactions across the business systems, whether they be purchase transactions, support activity, or whatever those points of interactions may be. But also the points of activity such as communication and correspondence, and being able to understand the patterns of activity and behavior and interaction that an organization will have with their customer, suppliers, or indeed products can be an incredibly powerful tool. So looking into the Salesforce clearMDM context, we have a look here at a person account who happens to be a master record. Very simple example, but illustrative, I hope, nonetheless. We have here some ERP customers that have been matched and merged to this particular master record. So we can see they have a relationship, their source records, they relate to the person account we were looking at. We have purchase transactions that have been reparented from the ERP customers to the master record to build up part of that 360-degree view. We have a calculated annual revenue that's been rolled up from the consolidated view of the purchase transaction. So simple concept, but they can be very, very, very powerful in terms of ensuring at the point of support and sales and so forth that we have as much information of a high quality nature available to ensure that those kinds of engagements, those kinds of contacts are as effective as they possibly can be. The third point of interest for a business user is point of entry protection. So again, if we jump back into the Salesforce environment, this is really about ensuring that when I create a record, the system should either prevent me doing it in the first place, or at least provide me some form of protection from wasting my time actually creating the record in the first place if duplicates exist. So here the product is overriding the standard new person account behavior with a search before create feature that requires me to search using compound filters or whatever logic I want to apply here. I can look out across the Salesforce data set and find out whether this guy, this individual perhaps, this supplier, customer, product and so forth exists up front before I proceed to create. So that's an example there of a active style of point of entry protection clearMDM also supports passive, which in my definition here is one whereby at the point of saving the record, a check is made. So the fourth point of interest here for a business user is dynamic hierarchies. So again, if we open up a record, a master record, if we look at the View Hierarchies feature, we can actually define custom hierarchies based upon fields on the master record. We can then start using that hierarchy to look at related child transactions at different levels. So by way of illustration here, we start at the bottom level. We have at the account level, we can see there are 2 purchase transactions. As we navigate up the hierarchy, we can start to see the consolidated view. So this feature works on dynamically configured custom hierarchies. It also works with standard hierarchical relationships, such as the parent account field on the account object. The next user role to consider is the data steward. So first point of interest for a data steward is typically the flexibility of the configuration of the MDM tool. No set of data stewarding processes are ever identical. The nature of the data in play, the information governance, the data governance standards, policies, and so forth will all play a part in there being differences and nuances across organizations. For example, the data standardization rules, the record matching rules will always be different, given they need to reflect and will be sensitive to the attributes, the quality, the characteristics of the data set itself. So from a product perspective, clearMDM has been developed with to deliver a dynamic, generic configuration, and the product works with any custom object, the majority of the primary standard objects. The fields can be selected based on type. There are no artificial constraints in terms of how the product can be configured and which objects can actually be configured to work with the MDM operations. The second point of interest for a data steward is really a key point around the record lifecycle automation. Being able to take multi-stepped, multi-staged processes and automate an end-to-end life cycle with the right checks and balances in place and the right points of control is a really compelling part of the product proposition. And moving back to the product, we can see there's the ability to define jobs and run MDM operations to a schedule. Looking at the settings aspect of the product, we can see that we're able to chain jobs together in sequence using, we can chain matching to the end of the normalization job. So we can then think about, being able to build up suites of jobs that are running through a series of record lifecycle stages. We also have control at the record level in terms of how those records are transitioning through the various stages themselves. So we look here at the ERP customers, data source, things that, operations such as matching. We can either run in auto match mode where all the records are processed, or we can start to apply a finer grain of control in terms of being able to set individual records as active for matching, and perhaps that flag is set through an ETL tool that's bringing data changes onto the platform, or perhaps there are other workflow or process automation elements that are setting individual records as being available to different operations. So there is a considerable degree of control there over how records are exposed to operations, how operations are running, and that extends out to the ability to invoke MDM operations from the process builder capability. Processes can run MDM operations. The REST API exposes an endpoint for MDM operations to be invoked, but also extends itself to the ability to use the Salesforce tools such as reporting notifications to kind of augment the clearMDM processes to add the reporting and notification elements. So we take a quick look at a reporting notification. So if we navigate across to reports, we pull up a exception report here. We can edit the subscription. So basically what this report does is if the exception condition, the number of perhaps matched records sit between a particular range of match score exceeds a certain threshold, then we're able to then post to a chatter feed or send an email notification just using standard platform capabilities. But that kind of proactive notification and proactive style of exception reporting can be incredibly powerful, because we know that reports or notifications are only applied when something needs to be actioned upon. clearMDM supports additional features in relation to this concept of proactive control. First point of interest here, I think, is the ability to apply or to accept behavior to the matching process. In a fairly typical scenario, there will be a level of matching scored that a data steward will deem sufficiently high that the matched record pair can be auto-accepted. So perhaps that's 85 or 90% scoring would be a level that the data steward would feel confident that the records are a match and that the acceptance can be automated. Levels beneath that threshold, but are still deemed to be matches, may require some level of manual stewarding by the data steward or the data administrator. So clearMDM provides support for that concept of being able to automate matching, but also providing a fine-grained level of control over how matches are accepted or indeed rejected. Match score calculations are always fully transparent. There's no black box calculation here. That anywhere records have been identified as being a match, it's possible to look and drill into the field level detail, the field level scores, to see why those matches have been identified. A further point here, and an important one, is that if a steward indicates that a pair of records do not match, regardless of the scoring calculation, then rejections can be indicated and rejections stay rejected. So if the process runs again, and those manually rejected records will not be picked up. The final point is around partitioned data sources, and this is a point of control around being able to look at a single object and being able to partition the content of that object into logical partitions that may represent different gradings of data quality, that may represent anything of relevance and context. And each of the partitions can be treated to a distinct set of configuration settings, and it allows different processing to be applied at different times. There's a very high degree of control over how records are processed by MDM operations in terms of the data source and also at the record level. If we now jump across to the product itself, we can start to look at some of those features. So clearMDM works on the concept of the matching operations creating a matched record pair or a series of matched record pairs within a group. So the group represents a series of record pairings, all of which are logically linked. Merge operations essentially take a group of record pairs and collapse those records into either a master record creation operation or a master record update. So in this case, we can see we have a record group identifier, we have series of fields here that represent the actual matching score, the threshold match score, how the records were matched, and so on and so forth. But if we open up the match record group and take a group level view here, you can see the other record pairs within the group, and we can see also the match status. So the match status is a key lever for the data steward, and this is where we would either have an auto accept scenario, or we would have a case where, okay, 68% is above 65, which is the match score threshold, but it's not above the defined auto accept threshold level. So this record pairing will sit at candidate status level. Reports and notifications can, enable the data steward to identify the pairs that need to be looked at. The clearMDM product provides a match analysis page where the individual field level detail and the scoring calculation is revealed, and this enables the data steward to make a decision perhaps on whether this particular record should be progressed to accepted or perhaps pushed to the rejected status. As a point of note here, the merge operation will only process matched record groups where all of the record pairings within the group have been accepted. So auto-accept behavior allows a seamless flow where record matches are above the auto-accept threshold, but where record matches are beneath that threshold, manual stewarding is required, and there needs to be that stewarding step that sits between the matching and the merging steps of the match and merge record lifecycle. So moving back to the user role view, the next and final user role to consider is the Salesforce Administrator. So from an administrative perspective, clearMDM works on an org-wide licensing model. There are no per-user licensing issues, so management of individual user licensing and license counts, etc., isn't necessary. clearMDM delivers a simple and clear and fairly commonplace permissions model. There are permission sets delivered in the product package that can be assigned and cover the data steward user role and the business user role. clearMDM also works with custom permissions and will enable a more fine-grained approach to be applied by administrators as is required for the business use. The final point under administration really relates to data storage overhead. clearMDM can work in a transient mode where source records do not need to be retained, and records can be integrated to the Salesforce platform, matched and merged and consolidated, and then removed. And that transient model can be very efficient in terms of there being no data storage overhead there. Alternatively, it's possible, of course, to retain the records, and perhaps that's in the native structure, and perhaps again there's real value in doing that also. So flexibility there and in choice. So looking at the permissions aspect here, if we jump into Salesforce environment, if we look at the permission sets, we can see there are the data steward permission set and also the MDM user permission set installed by the package can be assigned out to users as is appropriate. One aspect of the permission sets is the ability to work with custom permissions and so on and so forth. So in terms of the administration of the package itself, it should be a very common experience for a Salesforce administrator to understand and to implement. From a customization perspective, clearMDM works in a manner that can be extended and augmented by the standard declarative Salesforce capabilities, so process automation features, validation rules, formula fields, all of the power and configurability of the Salesforce platform can be brought to bear to extend and augment and to enrich and to deliver a tailored or bespoke set of processes that the core of which are delivered through the clearMDM product, but some elements are delivered through the Salesforce platform. So the product being a native solution, being built with Salesforce in mind, is and has always been intended to work well with the standard platform capabilities and to work with the grain and not against it. Again, under customization, really a big design principle for clearMDM has always been to deliver a solution that does not require code to be written, that the processes themselves are complete and end-to-end. There may be cases where additional areas of functionality need to be implemented, and that type of extension should be achievable through the point-and-click tools. There should not be a necessity to write Apex code to reparent child transactions or to plug gaps in the process. Third point under customization. So MDM operations can be initiated through the jobs page, but they are also available and can be integrated into process automation flows, or indeed triggered through external data integration tasks. And this, again, is part of being a good citizen of the Salesforce platform. And largely speaking, the Salesforce is a very open platform, very flexible and configurable, and any ISV type products should really follow that pattern. And if there are batch jobs, there are kind of logical operations, they should be able to be integrated into the other things, the other processes that are taking place on platform. So let me show a quick example of that. So if we jump across to the Salesforce setup menu, if you look at Process Builder, we have a very simple process here. So standard process, if we look here at an immediate action to start with, select the action type Apex, and we'll call this test 1. You can see that we can pick an Apex class that's coming from clearMDM. This requires us to propose the two mandatory parameters. We're going to normalize the account target object. We will run this on 5 processes, and if we wanted to, we could specify additional parameters there, but we can save that. So that then becomes part of a process builder process that could be doing a variety of other things. And the key point being here that capability, the custom action in actual fact that we saw there, allows us to integrate MDM operations into processes and make those capabilities part of end-to-end data management processes that are implemented using the standard process automation tools. So if we move back to the slides, so the final area of interest for a Salesforce administrator, I guess, is then the characteristics of the product itself. So clearMDM is a 100% native, 100% secure Salesforce solution. The product was designed and architected from the outset for the Salesforce platform, and has been designed and will continue to evolve as a design to exploit the very latest Salesforce platform capabilities. And anyone in this who understands the Salesforce platform will know it is growing, evolving, extending, release on release, and products such as clearMDM, to be successful in that context, need to keep a pace and keep abreast of the latest platform technologies and capabilities. As such, the clearMDM product will be updated 3 times per year in line with the Salesforce release schedule, and each of those updates will be focused on exploitation of the very latest features of the upcoming Salesforce release. So from a security perspective, there are no off-platform components to clearMDM. It's entirely running within the local Salesforce instance or org. Data is not transited off-platform for processing, and everything takes place on platform and has been designed to work as a scalable set of end-to-end processes. Thank you for watching this product demonstration. For further information on the clearMDM product, please visit www.clearmdm.com, or alternatively, we're on Twitter at clearMDM. Thank you.